And hi there. Welcome to Canceling COVID. We had a surprise this morning, thunderstorms after all of this hot weather. You got to admit, it's pretty nice to have the refreshing, cool rain to come down. A little bit of a thunderstorm, but be careful. This time of year, you can expect them to just pop off at any time. But yeah, it was nice to see the rain after we've been scorching hot. Not that I'm complaining, but you can certainly appreciate that. I appreciate you all taking the time to join us as we're here every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Canceling COVID, an opportunity to bring you real talk, real resources, and real solutions as we continue to navigate this thing called the pandemic. COVID is still with us, it's not going anywhere, and we are determined to continue to keep you updated, informed, and to talk about it. Now, I am very much aware that you have so many other things pulling at you throughout the day. So, for as you hop on, we do ask that you please share. Please let others know that you are here with us. And we want to start by thanking our sponsor, Groundwater Solutions, groundwater-solutions.org, groundwater-solutions.org. 704-596-0505. Dr. Trasha Black will join us later on as well as we continue to talk about what's happening in our community. So joining me right now, a conversation that we're talking about is this digital divide and how our students, our families are impacted. And we know that the pandemic really exposed how our children are having to deal with when it comes to technology, the digital divide, which is what it is called. You may not recall that my nonprofit partnered with UPS, shout out to their foundation, who helped to provide some support. We set up some resource centers around the city, an opportunity to help students as there was so much conversation when we stepped into COVID, or COVID really blanketed our community. They didn't have access to computers. And when they did have access, they didn't have access to the internet, and then trying to get people together. So I went to some of the ministries as well as the YMCAs, Stratford Richardson, and the one on Beatty's Road in McCory, and said, hey, can this be a nucleus, a point where we can set up centers for our students to come? And we donated $20,000 worth of Chromebooks for them to set up these centers, and we're grateful for that. Macedonia is another one right there on LaSalle Street, as well as Greenville Memorial, another location where we set up these centers. And you have access to Chromebooks and the internet service. But there are plenty of communities, organizations doing great work in the community, rather. And I'm thrilled to bring on this next guest here. I've been seeing their work and then hearing about it. And they just had another giveaway. And I was like, I really need to talk to them because they are doing great work and doing what they can. And more people need to know their story. Not that I'm the one to help them get the word out, but certainly I want to be a part of sharing this. So as you can see here, I have Mr. Pat Millen of E2D. And I want to say, first of all, thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Absolutely. So let's start by introducing E2D. Tell people about this organization.
So E2D started in 2013. My daughter, who was 12 years old at the time, came home from school one day and she said, Dad, I don't get it. Every assignment we get in the seventh grade assumes you've got a computer in the home to do it. And I know there are kids at our school that probably don't have computers because they can't afford them. And
Oh,
therefore, they can't do the work, and that's not fair. And then she looked at me and she said, what are we going to do about this? And
oh,
for anybody that's ever had kids, sometimes you hear them and sometimes it's kind of flies past you. But as a family, we started looking at this digital divide. What is a digital divide? Where is a digital divide? How pervasive is it? Is it just in small neighborhoods in Charlotte or is it everywhere? And the long story short, we figured out that the digital divide is what they call the three-legged stool. You've got to have three things to be digitally included in 2022 Charlotte. You've got to have a computer, you have to have access to broadband, and you have to have the digital skilling necessary to make it work so that you know what to do with it. And so as a family, we just started playing around with it. And then I left a career that I'd been on and for 24 years and started working on it full time.
well, so let's start with your daughter. First of all, kudos to her. What's her name, Pat?
Her name is Franny. Uh,
Franny. Oh,
and she just graduated 3 weeks ago. She graduated from Kenyon College up in Ohio, and
uh-huh.
so time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, it does, and we are so grateful for Franny and her heart for others. Let's start with that. So you touched on the whole digital divide. You know what's interesting is a lot of families, they have access to phones, and that's just not enough. There's about 40% or so around that number of, I know, minorities, especially in the Black American community, that do not have access. And I know the numbers are worse when you start getting out in the rural areas.
Sure.
So yeah, and I know you're very familiar with that as you guys have been doing that. So let's talk about your mission. What is the
hmm
mission of your organization?
So our mission is actually twofold. Yes, what our primary mission is we seek donations of laptop computers from corporations, from individuals, and then we actually have three computer technology refurbishment labs
Mm,
where we hire high school kids in Charlotte, CMS students. Very often, the students that we hire are from neighborhoods that are being served by this technology. So we've hired kids where they've been recipients of E2D
mm,
laptops previously. But we hire these kids, we train these kids, we compensate these kids. We pay more than 2 times minimum wage, which for an after school job is a pretty good job.
yeah.
And then we get these computers out to families. And so 2 Saturdays ago, we did 500 families. The first year in 2013, when my daughter first brought it to our attention, we distributed 150 computers that first year,
Mhm.
and last year we did 150 computers every 4 days. We did 14,000 computers last year.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. How have you been able to achieve these goals? I know clearly through donations, but are you getting grant funding?
Yeah.
How is this being made possible?
Yeah, so there's three ways basically that we are able to acquire the money required to do this. Our typical sort of basic original model is that when we refurbish computers, families actually got a little bit of skin in the game. So it costs us about 100 between 135 and $150 to refurbish a computer. When we get them to families that qualify as low poverty um, part of that community, they pay $80 to get a computer. So then we go out and we raise money in the community through foundations, through corporations. The first year before we even distribute our first computer, we had little kids doing lemonade stands, and they raised $3,000 doing
Oh my.
lemonade stands one Saturday in May.
Mhm.
So it's mostly just people who are inspired by the work and see how critically important it is. I would say over the last couple of years, corporate and foundation giving has become more essential to what we do.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate to be supported by groups like the United Way and the Foundation for the Carolinas, and then so many corporations.
So can you kinda speak on the impact? I'm sure you've got some, measurements or you've got where you've been able to talk about where or just comment on what impact you've had because obviously, stakeholders, people are looking for who have you impacted and what are those numbers?
Well, of the 30,000 computers we've distributed, probably 95% of them have gone in Mecklenburg County. So when we started in 2013, there was an estimation of about 65,000 households
Uh-huh.
in Mecklenburg County that did not have access to devices. You put most of the 30,000 that we've done, you look at other grants that have come in through like Bank of America or the library system, not to mention people just going and purchasing computers on their own because they see the value of those. We are probably down to about 15,000 households left. And so
That's pretty impressive.
what excites me, Tanya, is I honestly believe that by this time next year, Charlotte, for all intents and purposes, will not have a device divide. That if you are in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you need or want access to a computer, one will be available for you.
Really?
Now, that doesn't mean that, nobody ever solves the digital divide entirely.
Right.
because the next day you've got 25 families that move to Charlotte, and some of them
Yeah.
are going to need access. So there will always need to be more and more. What we're doing a lot of work on, frankly, these days is there are contiguous counties to Mecklenburg where Mecklenburg's just too expensive for families to live in. They work in Mecklenburg, but
Yeah.
they need to live in the outlying counties like Gaston, Iredell, Cabarrus, Rowan, Union. And so we've got a lot of focus right now on building out digital solutions in the other counties and then all throughout Western North Carolina.
So, Pat Millen with E2D, I'm just thrilled to have this conversation with you. Hey, I gotta ask, the signs behind you, what do they say? You're like
So
one of them,
it's
but
very funny. So this one right here
uh-huh,
says E2D, changing laptops or changing lives one laptop at a time.
all right.
This other one is kind of a really funny one. You may notice it says E3D.
Uh-huh.
And E3D was what we called ourselves originally in 2013 because our goal was to eliminate Davidson's digital divide. Because I
Uh-huh.
live in Davidson, North Carolina, and then we did. So we had to get
Ah.
rid of the D. We didn't need to eliminate Davidson's digital divide. We just needed to get rid of the one D. So now we're E2D.
So I had no idea you were from Davidson. I'm a native of Cornelius, right there in Smithfield, exit
Yeah,
28. So you're at exit 30.
we've
So,
done a lot of good work in Smithfield. Yeah,
well, I'm still
Smithfield's
working
good.
at it. And look at the work you guys are doing, though, which is really, really incredible. Tell me, how important is it? I mean, obviously, Franny pointed something out to you, but talk about how important it is, the work that you're doing in our community.
Well, I think it's very important. I mean, you cannot be successful in 2022 Mecklenburg County if you don't have access to a computer in your home. Hard
Mhm.
stop. I mean, it's that simple. Charlotte is doing a lot of good things right now. You know, Charlotte was very much, I think, embarrassed and aghast when we found out that we were number 50 out of 50 for upward
Yeah.
mobility of our more marginalized communities.
Mhm.
And I'm proud to say that I'm part, you're part. There are a lot of people that are out there saying, okay, that's unacceptable. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
And so I think that the work that we've done, and again, I think of Ron Potts and John Quinn in Smithville alone, you
Mhm.
know, we went to that church over there near Saeed's, and, there were like 25, 80-year-old women getting their first ever computers. But
Yeah.
how beautiful was that? Because they're now able to communicate with their grandchildren where they otherwise haven't been able to.
And my mom is one of them. So you were
Oh,
at
that's
the
great. That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. So we're still working on it. She is going to be 86 in July, but
Yeah.
absolutely, they are thrilled and trying to learn, and then through the care center, you all
Yeah.
showing them and
Yeah.
people trying to help them learn what is involved. So such a great story.
But I mean, Tanya, if you want a job, you have to have a computer these days. You
You
can't
sure
even apply for a job without a computer.
that is so
So
true.
it's a starting point, and we are just proud to play the small part that we play in the community, and we hope somebody's going to get up on a box in a year or so and say, "Hey, congratulations, Charlotte, you did it."
Yeah, well, I can appreciate your heart for the community, and just everything that you've shared is so genuine and sincere, and certainly much appreciated. So let's talk about, as we wrap things up, any upcoming events that you have. You just had one, and you mentioned the fee was $80, which is quite economical for anyone trying to get it,
Hmm.
because even if a family is having a really tough time, one computer, everyone can use it. You gotta
Absolutely.
start somewhere. So, any more upcoming events? And you might wanna walk through. I know when people come, you don't just hand them the computer and say, "Bye, see you later." You help them
Mhm.
also, or you tell us what you do when they show up.
Well, there's a program right now called ACP, which stands for the American Connectivity Program. And what
Mm,
that is that if you qualify due to your family's financial condition, you can get a $30 stipend a month where Spectrum or AT&T, if they're in their neighborhood, they will charge you $30 a month. You'll get fast access to the internet directly to your home, but by the time you get this benefit, you don't have to pay a cent. It's essentially free internet. So
mhm.
we need to educate as many people as possible for whom this is available, to take advantage of ACP. Thirdly, though, we also have to get people digitally skilled. So I'm thinking about your mama. It's hard for some of these older people to learn how to do things like cut and paste and point and click. My
Yeah.
parents are in their upper 80s. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So the skilling part is not something to be underestimated. It'd be like me walking up to you, Tanya, and saying, "Hey, here's a trombone. I'm going to take off now. Go play beautiful music." Uh,
Right.
you might be able to do that after a while, but the
No, no.
bottom line is it'd be easier if somebody could teach you how to do it a little better.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, the whole issue around what you just touched on, I'm glad you mentioned that. I've been trying and talk about it on my radio show. I've got a segment that I do called Gospel Entertainment, pushing this whole access to these funds. I work closely even with Cricket. They have it. Everybody has got this funding,
Mhm.
and we have not done a good job of making families aware that
Sure.
it's out there. And I don't know how we can do it besides keep talking, being a mouthpiece. Like even my mom, I've never even thought about, I'm sure with her income on fixed, she's probably got a good shot at getting that
Mhm.
as well. And so thank you all for uplifting that. So real quick, because I know you have to go, any upcoming events that you would like to share?
Well, the only thing I can tell you is we're in the midst right now of standing up a brand new computer refurbishment lab down in the South End.
Okay.
EY, Ernst& and Young, has given us 2,500 square feet, and we are basically adding 50% capacity to our production capability
Ooh.
right now. So all of our effort has been standing up this lab that EY donated to us, and
Uh-huh.
again, come August when it's back to school, I think there will be thousands and thousands of computers that we'll be putting back into the community.
Wow. Well, thank you again, Pat Millen of E2D, for taking the time to talk with us. E2-D.org is the website if someone wants to reach out to you. Anything else that you would like to share before we let you go?
Well, if you have any friends out there that work for companies that retire their computers after a couple of years, please consider donating them to E2D because we can give them a second life that could be more profound than the first life.
Absolutely. Mr. Millen, thank you again for taking the time to
My
talk with
pleasure.
us. All
My
right, enjoy
pleasure.
the rest of your day. Great conversation, folks. As I said, we want love for you to share, make sure people are aware that we are taking the time to continue to deal with this thing called COVID. And we know that when the pandemic came upon our community, boy, did it hit us in a big way in the sense of impacting what we were dealing with concerning our young people and how they were trying to adjust. And we're still trying to recover from what they've had to deal with, especially when it concerns having to learn in the classrooms and making this adjustment. It's canceling COVID. I'm so grateful for the conversation and appreciate the work that's being done by E2D as we continue to keep you informed and keep you updated. I want to bring on Dr. Trasha Black of Groundwater Solutions, who's always involved, always helping us out. Of course, a sponsor of the show, always acknowledging their support. Groundwater-solutions.org, 704-596-0505. So, Dr. Black, you work with what we love to refer to as the underserved community. That's your passion.
Yes.
You're located on Reagan Drive, but you're all around the city, all around the state, actually, getting
Mm.
involved, almost like you pick out the community that needs the most work and you serve. That's obviously a passion for you. What is being done with the effort to bridge the digital divide is admirable. What is your take on your community and your work when dealing with our students and the families that are struggling with trying to get access and keep up with technology?
Yeah. I see it. I think at the beginning of COVID, I don't, if we all kind of rewind in our minds a couple of years when the school shut down, it was really glaring what the disparities were in with regard to technology.
Uh-huh.
We had students, so many students at home who did not have access to technology, didn't have internet, did not have computers at home. And so the school systems around the country, especially in the urban areas,
Hmm.
started to roll around with school buses in hotspots so that students in neighborhoods could actually get internet access. And what was happening on the healthcare side that you all might not know, I operate in the healthcare arena, is that the digital divide was happening there also. During the shutdown, you had folks with mental health issues, whether it be children or adults. And we realized, we all had to go to a telehealth format, and there were folks who could not access that resource. And if you think about the children, telehealth is, like you and I talking here on the line, how you guys see pictures side by side, or when you FaceTime or video chat someone, that's how it looks in a telehealth situation. But that's really difficult to do with children.
So you just touched on something that I think we don't even think about, and you're right. As we've adjusted to what is a result of the pandemic, more of the online, the telehealth, which is for anyone that's not exactly sure, but I think most people are familiar, is where your doctor or nurse, they're providing service just like we're talking right now. So you don't have that face-to-face contact where you're actually in person providing or getting the health care that you need.
Right, right. And I think that we have, so in the beginning, we had to quickly adjust to that. As a healthcare provider, many insurance companies at the time, at the beginning of COVID, did not reimburse providers for telehealth services. It was still this new thing that we weren't quite sure of. We weren't sure if it was ethical. We weren't sure if it was really effective. And so really quickly at the onset of the pandemic, everybody had to get in line and realize that's how we're going to have to interact, at least in this season. And it was difficult when you have families and children who they don't have the ability to do that, but they need access to the educational resources. They need access to their teachers. They need access to their doctors and their therapists. And so at the beginning, there was this huge digital divide. I was really impressed with how quickly school systems and things like that really responded to get the computers out, to get the hotspots moving in the community. It never really filled the divide, but it did help with the gap.
It did help, but it's got to be a little uncomfortable for some people, especially our seniors, or when you've got a child and you're trying to explain, which, first of all, thank you again for pointing that out, because think of the large amount of families that missed out on healthcare because they didn't have the internet service or the Chromebook or the access to even do the telehealth. But even once you have it, there's got to be a little bit of discomfort with the patient and the provider, and trusting and knowing, you kind of really need to see me. I see face to face, but I'm just trying to figure out a pretty good response from patients, in your opinion, or do they prefer, I want to be in person?
Well, I think it goes, it's you're either in one camp. Like you were saying, you referenced children and seniors. Within the pandemic, we provide mental health support for Charlotte Area Fund. And Charlotte Area Fund provides so many resources to many areas of our community, seniors being one of them. And we had such a challenge being able to connect those seniors to mental health services through the telephone or through computers. Now, we know grandma is not logging on to the internet and finding the website or the link. That we realized quickly that just was not going to happen.
Right.
And then the telephone is very limited. Children, with children, play is their method of learning, their method of problem solving and communication. So best practice with children and mental health is you're going to be doing play and activities. That is hard to do over the internet. Adults, I think they acclimated pretty well. I think some have, at this point, are refusing to return back to a face-to-face healthcare.
It's way too convenient, right?
It's way too convenient to be able to pick up my phone and reach my therapist or reach my doctor. And you have it on the other side too, that professionals, whether it's the doctors or the therapists, they are enjoying working from home as well. And so being, I think they acclimated, but now it's hard to acclimate back or to balance. How do we have a little of both?
So, Dr. Black, what would be the disadvantages of sticking with telehealth as we move forward and see more and more people choose this as their way of acquiring health advice or just talking to their doctor or for treatment? What would be the disadvantage of this?
Well, I think one is the urgency of when you're needed to, when there are things that need to be assessed face to face, and there's a reluctancy to do that. In that time period between the time where I see that there is a potential problem and I can finally get you into the office, it also takes surprisingly a bit more resources. So, for example, we have our doctors. The day that our doctor is in the office, we now have community health workers that will go to your home and take your vitals, get your weight, get your blood pressure, your pulse, all of those things that normally, when you first come in and the nurse does those things for you before you sit in the office, sit down to see the doctor, is certain things that have already taken place. Well, it's certain things the doctor needs to actually lay hands, or a medical professional. So
Right.
we're having to use resources to send individuals into homes and into the communities. And of course, we do that because it's needed. But a small agency, that takes a lot. It drains on the limited resources that we have. I think there is a loss of some in human interaction.
Yeah.
You can only do so much with telehealth. And we were talked before, you and I, about the isolation effect of
Yeah.
COVID-19. Human interaction is really good. There's a part of healthcare that is the healing comes from the human touch. And so we lose some of that with telehealth services. And then you have the disadvantages of those folks who are impacted by the digital divide. And if that's our only way, our primary new way of doing business, then we've got a whole bunch of folks who are outside of that realm.
Well, I appreciate you always providing insight and update, and glad that you pointed that out because, again, Dr. Black, you have a way of just giving us little nuggets
Mhm,
that hopefully will get people to start thinking of more than just their community and their household. I always say check on your neighbor,
mhm,
and you help to explain or what my neighbor may be dealing with that I wouldn't even think about. So as we
mhm,
start to wrap things up, we just want to get a pulse on where you guys are. We're seeing our COVID numbers starting to go back up.
mhm.
This past week, though, I didn't see, we're still in the moderate
Yes.
zone. And hopefully we can maintain that because
Mhm,
I really want to continue to get out and enjoy the summer. I
yeah,
am seeing more people, however, masking up, which is great.
mhm,
And it helps, when you have your mask on to see
mhm,
others, at least we're
mhm,
taking precaution. I did see and read an article about, does it really matter if you're in a room and you're the only one with the mask on? Is that really going to protect you? And I believe the answer was yes. But
mhm,
kind of give us an
mhm,
update of where you are with everything as we start to
mhm.
wrap up.
So, as you said, we are seeing a moderate degree of increase in COVID-19 testing and cases, positive cases. There are more individuals and in groups who are planning testing events again.
Okay.
I think, and this happened last summer. So we believe that we're going to have a busy summer of events. And we're excited about that. And that just keeps the awareness that we are still in the midst of the COVID-19 virus and it's not over. So we keep reminding folks to do those things again that have kept us all safe and alive, and to share it with the folks that you love. On the other end, we've been waiting on our tailored care management certification.
Yeah, how's that going?
We did receive final certification
Woohoo! Well, that's great.
today. So that's a huge
Yay!
hurdle for our agency, as well as for other agencies around the state. So again, I was waiting on that certification, and I'll send you some information, and
Okay.
then we can post that up and get to work, because we've got a lot to do between now and December. There are a lot of infrastructure things. We talked about the digital divide, but there's some connectivity issues. We've got to be able to connect with the hospitals and other medical providers around the state so that all of our systems talk to each other. So we're doing that. And we'll be starting to enroll patients sometime later this summer. So we're excited. We'll keep you guys informed.
Well, congratulations. We're excited for you, and we're certainly keeping everyone up to date. Again, Dr. Trasha Black, Groundwater Solutions, groundwater-solutions.org, 704-596-0505. Thank you so much for taking
Well,
the time to talk with us.
thank
Yeah,
you.
we
Have a
certainly
good week.
appreciate. Yes, you do the same. We appreciate you. All right. As we are starting to wrap things up, folks, I appreciate you as always. Life's challenges make you better, not bitter. Please share, let people know that we are here providing great information and keeping you informed on canceling COVID. Also, thank you to Atrium Health. I serve as one of their COVID vaccine ambassadors. Hashtag COVID vaccine ambassador. Share and let them know also that we're still at it, getting you information, keeping you updated, and keeping you informed about what's happening. It's canceling COVID, everyone. I will see you. Well, tomorrow I'm on air at Praise 100.9, filling in for the lovely and talented Melanie Pratt for the rest of the week. So you got me Wednesday through Friday from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. and then Saturday from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. As always, life's challenges make you better, not bitter. Did I say that already? It's okay if we said it twice. Be careful, hot around the city, thunderstorms. Be prepared for those. Make sure you grab an umbrella or jacket or whatever, so that you're not caught off guard. Come on, it's almost the official day of summer coming up on us on the 21st. And you know how weather can get right here in the Carolinas. Thank you again for tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone. And together we will continue to keep you informed and let you know what's happening, because we intend to keep this conversation going as I prepare to can't come out of here the right way, which can be a challenge sometimes. So what can I say as I produce my own show? But again, we will continue to work together to cancel COVID. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And